Hello FlossTube friends, Happy New Year. This is Ruth and welcome to Spectrum Farms Needleworks. This is a channel where I primarily talk about cross stitch, also some quilting, and any type of needlework escapade I get myself into. So today what I thought we could do is I'd like to share a little bit about my 2024 stitching, a few of the favorite things that I stitched, also my January plans for January 2025. You know what, let's just get started and I'll jump right in. So what I first wanted to do was I use the cross stitch journal. And when I went back through my journal for 2024, I could not believe that I had 45 starts and 25 finishes. But let me explain that a little bit. Some of those I actually made more than once, but I only counted the start and the finish once. For example, when I went to StitchCon last summer, it was my very first StitchCon. Absolutely amazing experience. If you get the opportunity to go, you should go. It can be overwhelming. There's over 300 people, stitching in the room. There's a lot of buzzing of activity, but it's such a wonderful event. And Barbara and everyone at Keepsakes, they just put on a fantastic stitching weekend. I was registered to go this coming summer, but due to a scheduling conflict, I had to back out. So I'm so sad about it, but I know those that are going, they'll have a great time. So back to the stitching, one of the charts that I made, I had taken the bird and the strawberry from, and I apologize, I'm going to have to keep looking at my notes, and I'm in a different setup, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute, from Brenda Gervais, With Thy Needle and Thread, Rejoice Evermore, and I had made for my table mates, I made 8 scissor fobs. So this is what it looked like. So, and then I've got, this was the fabric on the back. So in my notes, I only counted this once, even though I made this 8 times. It was a lot, but it was fun. And the recipients, they all seemed to like it. So I mentioned that I'm in a different space. Normally I welcome you to my messy sewing room, but what I've been doing is, now that I have empty guest rooms in my house, I'm in the process of converting the smaller guest room into a stitching room. So I'm very excited about that. So my sewing room will be dedicated to quilting and finishing my stitching, and the stitching room just gives me a nice place to have my stitching away from the Great Danes and just in a nice dedicated space. So for 2025, I wanted to create another word for my year. Last year, my word was gratitude, and I made a small 1-inch pin pillow. I charted the 2024 and the word gratitude, and the tree design came from the Sampler Company's Ultimate Sampler Motifs Source Book by Brenda Keyes. This book right here. Sorry for the glare. I'm going to try and figure out the lighting. This is a great book if you don't have it. So that is where I got the tree from for my 2024. On the back, I just did my initials and a nun stitch. Now, this doesn't cover anything. Because I have carpal tunnel, it's hard for me to grip and hold things. And when I try the split back, I can't get it tight enough to where I like it. So for me, I don't like doing that. So this one I had just stitched closed on the bottom. So that was my 2024 word. So for this year, my word is thrive. I want to thrive in 2025. Now, originally my word, as the year of 2024 kept coming closer and closer, inching to a close, the word intentional kept coming to mind. And I really thought my word for 2025 would be intentional. If you recently watched Brenda and Laura, the serial starter, Brenda and the serial starter, Laura, they had talked about their word also intentional, which led to the word focus. And Sherry Colorado Cross Stitcher recently talked about how focus was her word too. But for me, the more I thought about intentional, I want to be more intentional in my stitching, in all areas of my life, my quilting, my relationships, my finances, my health. And when I started looking into intentional, it led me to a few other words. And when I looked through some more synonyms of those words, I came to the word thrive. And I really thought, that's what I want. I want to thrive in all areas of my life. So this is my pin pillow for this year with the word thrive. I got the tree from the book and the bird, the girl and the dog, and the key on the bottom. And then I charted the 2025. Now the 5, I didn't like at first. Sorry, I'm shaking a little bit. So I took it out and redid it. And the dog, because I have 5 special needs Great Danes, I beefed up the body a little bit than what's in the book. And I'm originally a redhead. I don't color my hair anymore, but the older I get, the darker it gets. And I apologize for the shaking. So as a natural redhead, I of course gave her red hair. And this dog reminds me a lot of our Great Dane Zeus. He's our black Great Dane, and he bounces when he walks, kind of like a bouncy trot. So I had to have an honor, little tribute there to our Great Danes. On the back, I did the same thing. I did the nun stitch. I added a little bit of a motif from the book. And again, this doesn't cover anything. I stitched it closed on the bottom. And this pin pillow is 2.5 inches, about 2.5 inches square, whereas last year's pin pillow was 1 inch. So this pillow is a little bit bigger than last year. If I do this, you can probably see, well, I don't know if you can see the size difference or not, but so there they are. 2024 gratitude. And now 2025, I want to thrive in 2025. So that's my word for this year. So that was my first stitch and finish for 2025. So getting back to 2024 for a minute, I had 45 starts and 25 finishes, which blows my mind. And I think that's going to lead me into December stitching. So part of my December stitching, I did have a finish, not fully finished, but I do have a finish. So one of the first things I worked on was Abby Rose Designs Merry Christmas. And it's still in the wrapper. Sorry I didn't take it out. Let me see if you can, hopefully you can see it. Now with this chart, I noticed some things. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to take it out of the plastic for a second, because I want to explain what I did. So what I noticed was right here on the chart, see that little leaf? That little leaf is not on the chart, but it's on the cover photo. So I wanted my finish to look like the cover photo. And I think there was one other thing that was different, but I can't think of what it was. So that little leaf right there, I went ahead and stitched it, even though it wasn't on the stitched chart. And I haven't fully finished it yet, because I haven't decided how I want to finish it. Bear with me a second. I apologize for looking down. My notes are on a trunk, which is a little bit lower. So I've got to reach down. And this is on 40 count Picture This Plus Oaken. And I think Pam from Just Keep Stitching had finished hers on that, and I really, really liked it. So here's my finished piece. Here's my stitching. You can see I added that leaf. And what I really wanted to do was I wanted to stitch it on the back, because the back was darker. But there was something with the back that I didn't like. I think one of my threads, I don't know. I don't remember what it was. So I stitched it on this other side. So there it is. So that's Merry Christmas by Abby Rose Designs. That was my start and my finish for December. My first one. Bear with me a second. I don't know how well this setup's going to do. I may have to come up with something else. But moving on. The next one I did was I fell completely in love with 3 different charts from Not Forgotten Farms, and I purchased the PDFs. So I made myself a binder, and they are Cinder Claus, Cookie Claus, and Little Nick. So this is from the little tiny binder that I made. Now Cookie Claus, I did buy the paper chart for her, but I got tired of waiting for it to arrive, so I ordered the PDF so I could get started. So I do have the paper version too. But let me show you what I did here. So for the 3 of them, I stitched them on Picture This Plus Dapple 40 count, and I stitched them all on the same piece of linen because I thought I would cut them out and make stockings. And I haven't made them yet. So here is, this one is Cinder Claus. See if you can, oh, sorry. There's Cinder Claus. There's Cookie Claus. And then here's Little Nick. Now let me show you what I liked about Little Nick. Was when Vanna stitched him, she added bells, and I found some rusty bells, and I added the rusty bells. Okay, you see them there. These are so stinking cute. Last year when I was at StitchCon, I had stitched the Patriotic Uncle Sam by Not Forgotten Farm, and I loved him so much. He's not finished. He's actually in a project bag, but they reminded me so much of him. Now what I do need to do that I haven't done is on Cinder Claus, I stitched the year 2024. I hope you can see that. But I haven't done that on Cookie Claus or Little Nick, so I do need to add the year. So this piece, the stitch piece is finished, but I haven't completed adding the year. So here they are, all 3 together. And they're not on the called for linen, because somebody, I don't know who I saw on social media, had stitched them on a different color like this background, and I really liked how they popped. So I love them so much. They are so cute. So I'm looking forward to getting them finished. And I might still finish them as stockings. I think a lot of people have been finishing them as ovals, ornaments, and I don't know if I'm going to do that. 1 second, let me set that aside. So another one that I stitched on for December was Peace on Earth Sampler by Cottage Garden Samplings. This one I actually started in 2023, and I had started it with the DMC. At that time it called for the chart calls for Gentle Arts, and I wish I had used those threads, but the DMC alternates look just fine. So I did make some progress this year, this December, and here's my update. So I got more of the top border finished, and I got the deer finished. This is really beautiful. And I'm leaving it in the Q-snap. I'm not taking it out. So I really, really like this. And let me see. This is, I believe it's Vintage Country Mocha. And it's probably a 40 count. 40 count seems to be my go-to. It's gorgeous. And if I didn't show you my project bag, but the project bag that I have it in is a Penny and Tunny project bag. Isn't that fun? And it's got stitching on the back. So that was Peace on Earth Sampler by Cottage Garden Samplings. Okay, let me set that aside. Now for January, I really wanted to create a blessing sampler. I had stitched a blessing sampler last year, but I kept changing my mind on what I wanted to stitch. Originally, I apologize, all this bending over leaning. I'm going to have to rethink this setup. Originally, I thought I would do Little House Needleworks Necessities Sampler, and it says, it's got the alphabet, and then part of the alphabet, like F, stands for fabric, N is needle, T is thread. So I was going to do this sampler. I gotta rethink this lighting. You can see that. I'll get closer. And I was going to, I don't think I have any, oh, my linen's not in here, so I can't tell you. I was going to use the called for, but I talked myself out of stitching it. I don't know why. So then I transitioned to Home of a Needlework, also by Little House Needleworks. I've had this chart for a little while now, and I wanted to stitch that. But I decided this wouldn't be my blessing sampler. But I do have a small start on the house. Just a really small start. And let me see. Home of a Needlework is, oh, it's on 28 count antique ivory casual linen. And my word of the year was on the same 32 count vintage country mocha Belfast linen that I used for 2024 because I wanted them to match. Okay, so I also started in January A Heart Remembers by Blackbird Designs. It's in this book. And this is the sampler. You can see that. It's the sampler. And I'm using the called for threads that are right here. Sorry, they were inside the book, so they're not very straight. Here we go. You can see those. And I'm stitching this on 40 count suede by Needle Bling Designs. And I have a very small start. I love this fabric. I think this fabric is absolutely one of my favorites. And I just have a small start. And then what I finally decided my blessing sampler will be, it's a very small sampler. It's from the 2022 Nashville Needlework Market Cookbook. It's by Blackbird Designs. Blackbird's one of my absolute favorites. I have, as a longtime quilter, I have a lot of Blackbird Designs quilting books. So I have some plans that maybe I'll tell you about in February about pairing my Blackbird cross-stitching with my Blackbird quilting. But I am on page 5, and this chart doesn't have a name. It's on the page that's called Pepperoni Dip, but it doesn't have a name on the chart. Okay, so here's what it looks like. And it's finished on a box, but there's not very many instructions. See, it's on the Pepperoni Dip. It's beautiful. It says the sampler size is 3 1/8 by 2 7/8. I am stitching this on a scrap piece of fabric that is 36 count antique white linen that I got at Salty Yarns. I am using the called for floss, and I'm really hoping it's going to fit on this fabric. I don't know. It's going to be tight, or at least I'll get the bulk of it. Here's where I'm at. Now you'll see right here, these windows look a little different than these windows. I thought I would backstitch the windows to kind of pull them out a little bit, because this is so delicate looking. It's kind of fading into itself. See how these stick out a little more? But I don't like it. So I think I'm going to pick all that out. And, or I may have to redo the windows. But I'm using the called for, which is a mixture of DMC, Classic Colorworks, and a lot of Weeks Dye Works. Let me get these. So I apologize. So today, while I was working on this, I was missing a floss. And I had already planned that today I would go to our new L&S. It's called Floss Flame. The owner is Jennifer, and she's an absolute delight. And she was having a Let's Get Crafty event today from 11 to 4, and I had it on my calendar to go, but then my husband and I had something come up, but I got to stop in and get the floss that I needed. So here's the floss colors that I'm using. So it's interesting that there's not a name for this chart. If you know the name for this chart, please let me know. Leave me a comment so I can add that to my notes. But the only thing it says on the page is pepperoni dip. It's absolutely beautiful. So this little sampler is going to be my blessing sampler for 2025. And again, here, I'll show you my progress. I love this. So as I mentioned, I stopped at Floss Flame today. And so while I was there, I purchased Winter Forest by Primrose Cottage. I love this. So this will be one of my starts for January. Now it calls for, where is it? Cottage Garden Threads. I'm not familiar with Cottage Garden Threads, so I am stitching it with the alternate DMC. And I also picked up by XU Designs Sampler Khaki Linen, that I think this is the linen I'm going to stitch it on. But let me show you those. So it calls for DMC B5200, 936, and 839. So here is the linen and the floss. That looks more like the linen. It's got like a green. It's a soft green. Let me see if that'll help. It's a soft green with some darker modeling through it. So it's, oh, come on. There we go. Yep, I paid $32 for it. XG Design, Summer Khaki. Maybe this tag will help. See if that'll, come on. There we go. So that's the linen. It's beautiful, and I like the feel of it. So I'm looking forward to starting on that. And then some of my other plans are, I want to start and stitch Home is Where Our Story Begins by Brenda Gervais. I know a lot of you have probably stitched that. I also want to stitch My Needleberry by Erica Michaels. I have an antique sewing bird that I can show you in another video when I get started on that. And then last summer, I showed how I started and stitched through a stitch along Jeanette Douglas's Chubby Bee. No, I haven't finished it yet because this extra fabric, I want to stitch, and they're in Ziploc bags because I have the floss with it. Chubby Bird, Chubby Bunny, and Chubby Fox. So I'm looking forward to stitching those. Now, one of the things I also wanted to finish sharing with about in December, the Delaware Valley Historic Sampler Guild had our small gift exchange. And I'm going to add a video about that small gift exchange. And I'm going to try and insert it here so you can watch that. But if it doesn't work, I'll go ahead and give you the update. So, as I said, I'm a member of the Delaware Valley Historic Sampler Guild, and this is Lucy. And this is Saturday, December, I don't even know what day it is. It's the second Saturday in December. We have our December meeting, but we are doing I can't even stay clean. We are, sorry, I'm going to keep going. We're having our small gift exchange. And since we're a sampler guild, the small gift has to be just the gift, no candy or anything extra in the bag, like some of us do, and myself included. It's fun to add the extras, but this way, to keep it fair for everyone, it's just the small gift, and it has to be sampler related. It cannot be holiday or anything like that. So my small gift for this coming Saturday is the Indigo Lane thimble box by With Thy Needle and Thread, designed by Brenda Gervais. Now, if you're familiar with the Indigo Lane chart, and I'll put a picture of it up on the screen because I've already loaned the chart out, but I will get it back because I want to stitch the house scene. So the thimble box is an extra in the chart, and I think it's a small paper mache box, I think 2x4. It's absolutely beautifully done. But what I did was I kind of changed things up a little bit. One of the requirements for our small gift exchange is that we have to have the guild's initials, the year, and our initials somewhere on the stitched piece. So I used, and I'm fairly certain without having the chart in front of me, that I used the called for fabric. So I used summer khaki linen. It says Weigart, and I'll hold it up. It's kind of wrinkled. It's darker than what you're seeing. That's probably pretty close to what it looks like. And I used the call for floss, with the exception, when I show you the box, I added an eye to the bird, and I used Weeks Dye Work Swamp Water for the bird's eye, because I kind of like birds and animals to have eyeballs. And I used the call for, and my threads are kind of ratty, and not all of these were used on my stitched piece. I used the stitched piece called for, but there's some extras on my ring because they're the called for the other piece, the Indigo Lane, the house sampler piece. So you can see it's a mixture of Gentle Arts, Weeks Dye Work, and there's some DMC thrown in there. So the Weeks Dye Work blue is called Deep Sea, and it's a really pretty blue. It's coming a little bright. Sorry, Lucy was climbing on me. I put on a clean shirt and Lucy climbed on me. So maybe. But there's some really pretty colors in here. Really pretty. So I know I used Deep Sea by Weeks Dye Works. I know I used, hang on, I think I used Sandcastle, I'm not sure. But anyway, if you get the chart or you have the chart, look at the instructions for the thimble box, because those are the threads that I used. So they are on here, it's just some of these go for the other piece. So now let me show you my stitched piece. So I decided to do a box, and it's not really what I would consider a small, but I liked it. So this is my stitched piece. So you'll see here on the top, I've got the Delaware Valley Historic Sampler Guild's initials, the bird, there's the eye. Sorry, it's I'm in the dining room and the color is going to come in and out. So there's my stitching. I added 2024, and then I added some rickrack, and I don't have it in my notes what the rickrack color is, but I'll add it in the episode notes. So I wanted to have it, you know, something to decorate the top. Then what I did was, this was a plain unstained wooden box that I found at the Joann's when I was in Florida, in Orlando, on East Colonial Drive. So if you're in the area, you'll know where I was. And I got the box, and I brought it home, I stained it, and then my husband sprayed a clear matte coat over it. I'm hoping it'll finish airing out by the weekend because it still has just a tinge of smell on the inside. So I put some Ultra Suede, it's gray, on the bottom, on the inside and on the bottom. Oh, that's probably more like the color. It's very soft and it's thin, but it just kind of finishes off the piece, and then I don't worry about, you know, if I've given something and it'll scratch somebody's furniture. So then in the chart, you get this piece to do the bird and the hexagon around it. I charted the initials the way I wanted them to look, and then the year, and then the chart gives you the band, and it's kind of split, like part of it, half of it is like on the top part of the pattern and the other half is on the bottom part of the pattern. But I changed a couple of things. So I think it's these guys right here. I added some extras and I stitched Smyrna crosses, if you can see those. And then what I also did was, so here's some more of the band. There's my initials, but to fill in space in the back, I added the bird. So you can see I followed the chart this time and I did not give the bird an eye. So that's really what it looks like. And it only gives you the bird in the one direction. So what I did was I took a picture of it on my phone. I reversed the image so I could ensure that I was stitching in the right direction, the bird correctly. And then I just delete the photo because it's just to help me to stitch the bird. And then I used my maiden name middle initial because my initials are R-A-U for Ruth Ann Huey. And when I stitch my initials, depending on the font, they just kind of run together, especially if it's lowercase. So a good friend of mine recommended trying to use the J from my maiden name, and it gives a nice separation between the R and the U. So I've met all the requirements, and this was my first time finishing like this, and a novice here, but here's how I did the seam. This was my first time doing that kind of a seam. I originally used the deep sea blue color, and I had really big stitches, and a good stitching friend of mine said take them out and use floss the color of the linen, and it really made a difference. I think if I was to do this again, I would make a full X instead of just, you know, like the zigzag. And then I also had the seam over here, so she said take it off, center it, and then change the floss. And she was right, it really made a big difference. Sorry, I think there's a dog here. I still need to clean it up before I package it for Saturday. So again, I'll show you the whole thing. So here's the top. And if I was stitching this again using variegated floss, I think up here I would pay more attention so that the dark is on the bottom for all of the letters. I mean, it looks fine. I think I would just like it better. And I apologize, the lighting keeps coming in and out. So then that is the center. And this right here was not part of the box. It was, those are two separate buttons. I wanted something to go with the curve of the box. So this kind of used an anchor, and then I used this more decorative button. You can kind of see the shininess from the glue. I used E6000 because I wanted to make sure it was on, but I wanted the box to have something for the stitcher, the recipient, to grab onto instead of just, you know, manhandling it. That's probably not the right word, but, you know, I wanted a way for them to open it. And the box does have a magnet. So it's just a small one. And that was part of the original box. So it does have, you know, a little bit of security to it. Not much, but I still wanted to add it. And I think it came out okay. I showed it to some friends to get their opinion because I thought, if someone, I would hate to stitch something and then the recipient be disappointed. So I was kind of nervous about gifting it. I was thinking, well, maybe I would just keep it. But they talked me into submitting it for the small gift exchange, even though it's, I mean, it's about the size of my hand. I'll look up the dimensions. And so this is it. So this is my small gift exchange for the Delaware Valley Historic Sampler Guild meeting this coming Saturday. And here I'll go real slow. So I added the bird. Here's, oh, I think there's another hair. So everywhere these little confetti stitches were, I changed them to Smyrna crosses, and I added a couple extra, I think. And then I used the rec rack on the top and the bottom. I wanted the box to still be able to be seen. I like that. I like being able to see the box, and I think it kind of gives it a bird's nest look and feel. This was part of the box already, so I added both of these buttons. So I hope you like it. If you can think of ways that I can improve it, let me know. And if I could really use some encouragement, since this is my first time ever doing something like this. Let me know if you think, well, by the time you see this, I will have gifted it. But fingers crossed, and prayers, good vibes, and positive thoughts that the recipient likes it. So thanks. And now I'd like to share with you why I still have it. So after I stitched it and got it all nice and ready, somehow I broke the hinge on the back. Now this is not the original hinge. It almost looks identical to the original hinge, but it's a darker brass and it's a little bit heavier duty than the one that was on there that came with this was an unfinished box. And I broke it the night before. We were supposed to do our small gift exchange the next morning on that Saturday. And the hinge that I replaced didn't arrive in time. It arrived 30 minutes after I left the house to drive the hour and a half to get to the meeting. So it does have a brand new hinge, but I still have the box. And now it's just part of my stitching journey, and it'll be here amongst all my things because I wasn't able to gift it at the small gift exchange. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm so grateful to all of you for your likes, your subscribes, your comments, reaching out to me personally through email or on Instagram. So I hope you have a fabulous 2025, and I hope together we all thrive in 2025. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks. Take care.